coming up 6 years old. So he's kind of the equivalent to, say, a 20-year-old in human years. So the way it works with koalas is at the age of 3, mum gets rid of them, kicks them out, you're on your own. Over the following several years, they grow to reach sexual maturity, but they also need to reach their full size to then be able to take and maintain a territory. So koalas are solitary and very territorial animals. So out in the wild, males do not allow other males in their area. They will fight very, very viciously to maintain control of an area. And what they're trying to control is the food supply. Now, koalas are famous, incredibly famous animals. People all over the world love koalas, and quite rightly, they are absolutely adorable. But I think they actually go underappreciated for how interesting they are as well. Now I say that, and people tell me, well, how interesting can an animal be when it sleeps for 20 hours a day? And that is what koalas do. They sleep a grand total of about 20 hours each day. And my response to that question is, surprisingly interesting. So hopefully by the end of me talking, you'll have a bit of a better understanding and better appreciation for how interesting koalas are. So a few run-of-the-mill koala facts. They are an Australian native, of course, so this is the only place in the world you can see them in the wild. One of the few places in the world you can see them at all. They are marsupials, so like the majority of Australia's mammals, these guys, or at least the females, have that characteristic cap. But theirs is a bit different compared to a lot of marsupials, but we'll get into that later. And famously, koalas eat exclusively eucalyptus leaves. Now, koalas are arboreal animals. So basically means they live in trees. Seeing a koala on the ground is fairly uncommon. The only reason they come down to the ground is when they can't reach the next tree. But a koala on the ground is very vulnerable. There are plenty of predators down here, and while they're on the ground, they're not particularly mobile. So, they stay in the trees as much as they can. Now, they do have some really cool adaptations that make this treetop lifestyle much easier and more advantageous for them. The first one we'll talk about is their hands. You might have seen it as he was moving around, but now that he's given you his back, you might not be able to see it. But on one of the banisters, there's a little brass plaque. Gives you a little diagram of the koala hand. So koalas, like all marsupials, like all mammals, have 5 digits. But theirs are actually in quite a unique arrangement. If you look at our own hands, we of course have 1 thumb, 4 fingers. Koalas, on the other hand, have 2 thumbs, 3 fingers. Simple reason for that, makes it much, much easier to hang on to branches. But if you keep looking at their hands, you'll see they do have very large, but very curved claws. Now, curved claws are really, really important for an animal that climbs. See, if your claws are straight, it doesn't matter. Yeah, you can ignore them. They will come and sit on you. They didn't do it when it was their show. They prefer to do it now. Yeah, it's just their attitude. Just as a warning though, they do bite. If they go anywhere near your ear, they will bite your ear. So don't let them anywhere near it. Plus they scream in your ear as well. It's really painful. So, if they come and sit on you, you don't want them, just brush them off. They're perfectly strong enough, they can handle it. Now, curved claws. So if you have straight claws, doesn't matter how sharp they are, you have to use a lot of energy and your own strength to actually grip something. Whereas curved claws, far more energy efficient. Because you don't need to grip something to hang onto it, you can just literally hang from your claws. And so for most animals that climb, especially those that climb trees, you will see prominently curved claws. Now, the more curved they are, the more energy efficient that method of climbing. And then there are some, yeah, see, look, they don't even leave him alone. Then there are some animals that have taken that curvature to a whole new level. Not an Australian species, but the sloth. Their claws are so curved, they basically form a coat hanger, and they can hang from them without using any energy at all. So very, very energy efficient. Now, of course, koalas haven't taken it that far, so you can see a very big curve in their claws. just makes it much, much more energy efficient to be in trees. Now, energy efficiency is the name of the game when it comes to koalas. Everything they do is about conserving energy, and I'll explain why in a little bit. Another adaptation for this treetop lifestyle that koalas have is actually their colour. Now, it might not seem like it looking at it here, but out in the wild, koalas are very, very difficult to spot because of their camouflage. Now, from the underside, they are not just plain grey like their backs, it's actually mottled white. It's just a bush turkey running around on the roof. So, that white mottled patterning to their backside blends them in with the spots of light that are coming in through the tree canopy. So for animals that are looking for a koala from below, really difficult to spot them because they blend in with that white patterning against the sky. The dark grey they have over their back is camouflage against animals that are looking for them from above. So most of their bird predators like wedge-tailed eagles, goshawks, powerful owls will be over the canopy looking through, trying to spot a koala hanging out in the branches. But as they sit curled up in a ball against the trunk of the tree, that grey pattern blends them in with the shadows against the trunk of the tree. So koalas are very difficult to find. Now another really cool adaptation these guys have for their treetop lifestyle is actually something they share with their closest living relative. Now, do any of you guys know who the closest relative to the koala is? I'll give you a hint, it's not an Australian native, but does not live in trees. It actually lives as far away from trees as you can be. It's the wombat. So koalas and wombats are very closely related, and they share two really cool traits. The first one I'll tell you about really helps koalas living in trees, and it's in their backside. Both wombats and koalas have a cartilage plate in their rear end. Now, predominantly, wombats use it as a shield against predators, and theirs is about 5 centimeters thick. You can smack that thing all day long, they don't care. But, as a protection against predators, say a wombat's being chased by a dingo, the wombat runs into its tunnel, blocks the entrance with its backside. As the dingo tries to get at the wombat, it's only getting armor plating, so the wombat doesn't get harmed, the predator gets nothing for all their efforts. Now, koalas do use it in a similar way. If they're being chased by a predator, their instinct is to get up the nearest tree. And as something like a dingo or even a quoll is pursuing them, all they're getting is a face full of armor plating, so it does keep them safe in that regard. But what koalas predominantly use it for is exactly what Flynn's doing for us right now. It's a built-in seat. Frequently, you'll see koalas sitting in a position that look really uncomfortable, because it looks like they've got a stick jammed right up their backside. They don't mind because they've got that built-in cushion. But it's not just a cushion, it's also an anchor. So again, for an animal that sleeps 20 hours a day in the tops of trees, you're going to have to come up with some kind of solution to stop you from having to wake up every time the tree moves. Every time the breeze blows, if you have to wake up to grab a hold, you're not going to get much sleep. So what they have is an anchor or a holdfast. And the way they use it is they find themselves a fork in the branch, like this one above me, and they just jam themselves into it. That wedge that they create, that armor plating, creates pressure against the branch, and they can actually curl up in they can curl up in a ball, and even if you go and shake the tree, they don't need to wake up, they don't lift their head, they don't even grab the branch, because they know they've got themselves secure with that holdfast. So it's a really cool adaptation these guys have. Now, they do share another trait with wombats, but this is where koalas start to get really interesting, and it's to do with their pouch. So wombats and koalas have a pouch that opens downwards. So most marsupials, their pouch opens up. If you think about a kangaroo or wallaby, makes sense, because it makes it nice and easy for the baby to get in and out whenever mum wants to get rid of it. With koalas and wombats, theirs opens down. Now for wombats, that makes a lot of sense, because mum spends a lot of time digging. If she had a pouch that opened upwards, she'd be shoveling mud in her baby's face all day long, potentially even filling her pouch with mud and smothering her joey. So obviously, a backwards opening pouch, very, very handy. But of course, koalas don't really do a great deal of digging. So how does a backwards pouch help koalas? Now, it used to be thought that for a koala climbing through a tree, an upwards opening pouch would get caught on sticks and broken branches a lot.
So a downwards opening pouch saves them a bit of trouble. But more recently, it's been discovered that koalas spend equal amounts of time travelling forward as well as backward. And surely, having a backwards opening pouch, as you travel down, the tree is going to get caught on these little sticks and branches a heck of a lot more than an upwards opening pouch. So, it's not for that. It's actually got nothing to do with living in trees whatsoever. It's all to do with their diet. So, of course, koalas famously live exclusively on eucalyptus leaves. In Australia, we've got roughly 800 or so different eucalyptus species. Of those different species, koalas eat maybe 100 or so. They are very, very fussy animals. And they're not just fussy about which species they want to eat, they're also fussy about which specific leaves they want to eat. So if you have a look at the branches that I put in fact, he's already smashed through these ones, you can see all the leaves at the very tips are gone, but if you have a look at these ones, he hasn't got to these yet, they're much, much softer, much paler in colour, sometimes tinged red. That's the baby growth, the new leaves. And that's what koalas want to eat, because it is much, much softer, it is much easier to digest, has much more nutrition, much more water, and much lower levels of the nasty chemicals that make eucalypts really difficult to eat. So they're very, very fussy, because if they spend their time eating these adult leaves, the adult leaves are really tough, they are really unpleasant, they are really hard to digest and have almost no nutrition. So a koala, if it spends its time eating the adult leaves, it's actually going to end up losing energy rather than having gained it. So energy efficiency is the name of the game. So they're very, very selective about what they eat, because they have to maximize how much energy they spend versus how much they're going to get out of their food. Which is why koalas sleep for 20 hours a day.